I gotta be honest with you. What we just watched at Kansas wasn't just a bad afternoon for one of the most talked about drivers in the Cup garage. It was something worse than that. Something that's going to follow this guy all the way into next weekend, into the next conversation, into every single interview he sits down for between now and the end of the regular season. And if you were watching the timing screens, you already know what I'm talking about. A car that should have been climbing, going backwards, a team that's been trending up, suddenly looking lost, and a number on the points sheet that just flipped from comfortable to panic mode in about 4 hours of green flag racing. Two completely different stories collided in Kansas. The story everyone expected this season to tell, and the story Kansas actually told. And those two things are not even close to lining up right now. So, yeah, we got to talk about this because what happens next at Watkins Glen just turned into one of the most loaded weekends of the entire 2026 season. And I don't think people fully understand why yet. Here's where it sits. Shane van Gisbergen rolled into Kansas Speedway sitting 16th in points, right on the cut line. Not comfortable, not safe, but in. And that mattered because the conversation around SVG this year had finally started to shift. Remember where we were a few months ago? Everyone, and I mean everyone, was saying the same thing. Great road racer, can't run an oval, never going to make the playoffs on points. That was the consensus. That was the take. And for a while in 2026, it looked like he was finally starting to break that ceiling. He'd shown speed at places he had no business showing speed. The Trackhouse 88 was qualifying respectably. He was banking finishes instead of bleeding them. If you're a real NASCAR fan who wants the honest version of these stories, not the polished press release version, go ahead and hit subscribe. We're pushing toward the next milestone, and I want you riding shotgun for it. So Kansas was supposed to be the test, not a win. Nobody expected a win. Just survive. Just hang on. Get a 20th, get an 18th, anything that doesn't bleed points. Walk into Watkins Glen, where he is the defending Cup winner, with a cushion under him, and let the road course do what the road course always does for this guy. That was the plan. That was the entire strategy of his summers. And here's the thing that has fans scratching their heads. None of that is what actually happened, right? From the moment the green flag dropped, something was off with that 88 car. The balance wasn't there. The rotation wasn't there. He was fighting understeer. That pushing, refusing to turn feeling that just eats lap time on a mile and a half. And he was fighting it from lap 1, not lap 50, not after a tire change, lap 1. You could see it in the long runs. Cars he should have been racing were pulling away by tenths a lap, then full seconds, then straightaways, and there's a moment in every Kansas race where a driver realizes the car isn't coming to him. It's only going to get worse. SVG hit that moment early. He drifted back to 27th, then 30th, then 33rd. A caution on lap 89 gave him the lucky dog and got him back on the lead lap. Tiny lifeline, and for about 10 minutes you could squint and convince yourself the day was salvageable. It wasn't. By the time the race went into overtime, he was 4 laps down. 4. And when that checkered flag finally waved, the 88 crossed the line in 36th, not 26th, not 30th, 36th. And it wasn't just him. Every single Trackhouse car finished outside the top 25. The whole organization had a day. But for SVG specifically, this wasn't just a bad finish. This was the kind of result that changes a season. Because while he was sitting there 4 laps down, the math was happening behind him. Suarez was banking points. Cindric was banking points. Briscoe was banking points. Every driver fighting for that 16th spot was making the most of Kansas while SVG was losing Kansas. He didn't just have a bad race. He handed the cut line to somebody else. Now, here's where the numbers get brutal. He didn't drop 1 spot. He didn't drop 2. He fell out of 16th and landed at 18th in points, 32 points behind the cut line. That's not a bounce back next week in your fine gap. That's a you need to perform at a level you haven't performed at all season on ovals gap. And that's not even the craziest part, because Watkins Glen is next, the road course. His road course, the place where last August he absolutely embarrassed the field and won going away. The place where he's compiled 4 straight road course wins in this series. The place where, on paper, he is the favorite. So now the entire complexion of the weekend has flipped. This was supposed to be a fun race, a celebration race, a watch SVG cook weekend. Instead, it's a must win, or close to it, because if he doesn't win at the Glen, the math gets uglier. The remaining schedule doesn't get more road course friendly, it gets less. And the people inside the garage are noticing. Kyle Busch already weighed in on how differently the field is racing SVG now. Blocking harder, defending harder, making every lap a fight with an easy road course advantage SVG had as a rookie. It's gone. The field has adjusted. They are not going to roll over for him at the Glen the way they did last year. That is not just pressure. That is a different kind of pressure than this driver has ever faced in NASCAR. Last year at the Glen, he was racing for fun, and this year he's racing to save his season. And that's not even accounting for what happens after the Glen if he doesn't get the result he needs. So let me lay out the question that's hanging over this whole thing. Is Watkins Glen the perfect storm for a driver to rescue his year, or is it the perfect storm for a driver to crack under the weight of having to do it on demand? Because there's a version of the story where SVG shows up Sunday, drives away from the field, locks himself into the playoffs on a win, and we all look back at Kansas as the moment that forged his season. That's the storybook version. That's the version Trackhouse is selling internally right now. But there's another version. The version where the field comes loaded for him, where Larson and Bell and Hamlin and Reddick all show up specifically to deny him, where the 88 has the same balance issues it had at Kansas because the team is in a slump, not just the driver, where one mistake, one pit road penalty, one late race restart goes the wrong way. And suddenly he's not just outside the playoffs, he's mathematically chasing something that's getting away from him. This is the part of a Cup season that defines careers, not the wins, not the highlight reel, the weekends where everything you've built can either break in your favor or break against you, and there's no middle ground. Shane van Gisbergen has been a lot of things to NASCAR over the last 2 years. A novelty, a road course assassin, a rookie sensation, a storyline, but what he hasn't been yet, not really, is a driver who had to deliver with his entire season on the line. That's what Watkins Glen is now. And whether he answers that or whether Kansas turns out to be the moment the whole thing started slipping, we're going to find out in about 6 days. So here's what I want from you. Drop a comment and tell me. Straight up, no hedging. Does SVG win at Watkins Glen and punch his playoff ticket, or does the pressure get to him and we watch the season unravel in real time? I want to know where you stand, because by Sunday night, one of us is going to be right.